Dustin Baker, Vikes Now. We're back for a new week, the Monday edition. We're talking about this Eagles funny business for week 2 and your Vikings. So, it's nothing controversial, but I want to break down the implications of the Vikings playing in Philadelphia week 2, some historical stuff. You know how I like to do things, and kind of an unsung nugget about Monday Night Football for these Vikings that I bet you didn't know unless you saw me just tweet about it moments ago. So here's my first little speech. So there's like this spectacle that suddenly the NFL is drizzling the schedule out like day by day. They used to do it in April, first of all, and it was just plop. Put it on a website, and then that goes to Twitter. Boom, the slate of opponents. Not doing that anymore. They're doing this shit where they do it network by network for some godforsaken reason, so that you have to piece together breadcrumbs to figure out, unless you have patience, which I don't, then you can just wait till Friday and look at it all. That's probably how the world usually does it, but for dudes and then gals like me who want to know, you have to do like this chessboard. Well, let's see, if they go here, then they're going to go there. What was cool is we got to know the international games right away. I get that. You can build some suspense. But now ESPN Monday morning is like, hey, week 2, we got 2 games. And when I saw they were going to stagger the release of this by network, I was like, well, surely ESPN will release all of its games on Monday. But no, just week 2 stuff for the hell of it. I don't know what tomorrow entails. When is it? CBS or Fox? When they announced, do we get week 3 CBS matchups? Bizarre. So, not a fan of it. I wish they would just drop it back in April like they used to, and we can make travel plans and start sizing up how many wins the Vikings will have, because you're a fiend and you do that. So the Vikings go to Philadelphia. They're returning to the scene of the crime of the 2017 NFC Championship, which took place in the 2018 calendar year. But they've played since then. The Vikings have toppled the Eagles twice since that NFC Championship, in 2018 and 2019. I think the 2019 game was the one where Diggs had 3 touchdowns for 100 blah, blah, blah yards and was an absolute machine. Probably one of his last great performances with the purple and yellow team before being traded at that point 6 months later to the Buffalo Bills. So they've had the Eagles number, the Wentz-led Eagles number as of late. So this isn't their first date or anything like that where they can seek vengeance. They've already sought vengeance twice and exacted it. But, nothing will be quite vengeful until we get their number in the playoffs again. Because, what they did is they disabled a home Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings. And everybody bought into it. I've given this speech a couple times on the 2017 team. I truly was waiting week by week for the bottom to fall out of that team, because in the heat of the moment, you don't realize how good that defense was. Now, when I look back on it historically against other great defenses and other Zimmer defenses, they were absolutely marvelous. That was the entire reason that 2017 team got as far as they did, was because of the defense. It was absolutely suffocating, setting records on third down conversion percentage or lack thereof. But that was supposed to come to fruition. That team was storybook. Case Keenum's one good year of his whole career happened with the purple team. Didn't quite pan out. And now the Vikings will travel to Philadelphia for another date to try to continue this tour of vengeance. I think so far, when they beat them twice, one was in Philadelphia in 2018, and then that 2019 game, I know for sure. I was there when Diggs busted out and had those big bomb catches from Cousins. It was Cousins' arm on display that afternoon. So they've beaten them twice since then, which is a good omen. Hopefully they're not due to drop one to Philadelphia, because that week 2 game will, surprise, surprise, be pretty important. But what this also does, because they put a Monday night game on the schedule, the first little bit of breaking news on the schedule, aside from London and Germany and Mexico City, is that your guy, Kirk Cousins, gets to play on Monday Night Football. And I was looking for some Vikings stuff. I was looking to see what people were talking about, so I could opine on it on our website, VikingsTerritory.com. First thing I saw was Kirk Cousins' Monday Night Football record, 2-9. And it was by some NFL writer. I think he had an Eagles slant, just as I have a Vikings slant. And it said the Cousins is 2-9. His only 2 wins are against the Bears. The Eagles have him on tap. And it's like, oh, we're starting that early. We're starting that in May, the Cousins anti-prime time. So here's the deal. I don't know if I've given this speech on here about the prime time Cousins stuff. It's so ludicrous. The only time it makes sense is if you believe in legitimacy of quarterback wins. If you believe in that one guy is out there slinging it with 52 other dudes on his team, but this one guy is accountable for the wins and losses by himself, then quarterback record adds up. It's like it works for Cousins when you're going to criticize him as an even Steven quarterback. But Warren Moon, who had a quarterback win-loss record of 102-1, poor guy. Universally considered one of the most prolific passers ever, victim of the wrong era. You should have seen him in today's passing NFL. His teams were never quite good enough. We throw out all those nuggets when describing poor guy Moon, but when a quarterback record, especially in primetime, is used for Cousins, it's used to skewer him and say, oh yeah, his team doesn't quite get it done. In reality, since Cousins became a full-time starter in 2015, he's had 25 primetime games, 46 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, a 97.6 passer rating, which is slightly below his usual output. And since 2015, so the last 7 NFL seasons, his primetime passer rating of 97.6 is better than Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford. I think Ryan Tannehill was on there too. So I get it. You got to sell your stories and your clicks because insulting Cousins, is a bonanza for that. But if you use nuance and context to look at his personal performance in those games, he's usually not the arbiter of fault. Now, he's had stinkers. I know that for sure. I've been there at them, especially the 2019 Monday Nighter against the Green Bay Packers. Wasn't on his A game. But on the whole, he performs like he does in regular daytime games in Monday Night Football. It's just that he was the victim of the Washington football team for a long time. And it's only recently starting getting better here for the Vikings. I'll get to this in a minute. The Vikings have won 3 out of their last 4 primetime games with Cousins at the helm. Just a little recent trend that's advantageous. So, I think the next notable item on this is that they're probably, the Vikings, they're going to have a week 1 home game. It would be really weird if they have a road game week 1, then they go to Philadelphia for Monday Night Football, come home, I hope, for week 3, and then off to London they go. The tea leaves here indicate that week 1 will probably be at home. A rumor suggested it would be the Giants. I dug into it, and that's actually pretty credible. You can't book your travel agent to come to Minneapolis quite yet if you live in a different state. But the Giants is a possibility. But I would bank on week 1 being at home. Last year, they started the 2 on the road at Cincinnati, at Arizona. Didn't go well. Remember that comedy of errors of penalties during the Bengals game? I'd never seen anything like that shit, where it was just one after another. It was at second quarter. Penalties looked like buffoons. And then the following week, after they could have won the Bengals game, they were clumsy against the Cardinals and couldn't finish off a win with a chip shot field goal. Think about the trajectory of that season if he would have made that field goal with as high flying as the Cardinals were at the time and then eventually would be up until about December. Would have been a game-changing win. No such luck because that's how 2021 went in Mike Zimmer's swan song season. But you can almost bank on it, no pun intended, that the Vikings' first game will be at home at US Bank Stadium. Hopefully just an ordinary old noon game where the team flourishes. Maybe that was just a Zimmer stat where they do so well in home noon games. Noon games in general, but especially at home. The other thing is the Vikings have 2 straight Monday Night Football wins. You can't hang the banner or build a statue based on that, but it's noteworthy. The quarterback who was mysteriously 0-9 up until these last 2 seasons, they've actually won 2 Monday Night Football games, both of them against the Bears. Kind of sloppy games at Soldier Field. Go figure. Every game there is like that, fluky, hard to watch, grind out a win if you're lucky. on to the next one. That's how Vikings games are at Soldier Field. I kid you not. And if you don't realize that, you haven't watched Vikings football for very long. Here was the thing that I teased at the beginning. Since Sam Bradford, in that aforementioned 2017 season, had that absolutely fabulous Monday night game against the Saints in Week 1, the Vikings have only had one other home Monday nighter since. And we're coming up on, let's see, 5 seasons of football, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. And now 2022, we know verifiably that they have another road Monday night game. So you got to ask yourself, what the hell's going on here? All the Vikings Monday night games are on the road. 6 out of the last 7 games that occur on Monday night for the Minnesota Vikings have been road games. And I have no idea why they've been blackballed like this. US Bank Stadium is fantastic. We like Sunday night games, but we'd probably rather have a couple Monday night too. So the score's got to settle at some point. I don't know if there's any more Monday nighters probably coming out with ESPN's schedule drop, but you would think that pretty soon Minnesota has to be on tap for a home one. The last one they had, they played like shit. That was against the Packers in 2019. And I think they lost 23-10. But before that, it was Bradford and his probably the best. Well, first of all, it was the best game of his career, period. And then it was the last good game of his career, period. But there's only been, since that moment, in the last 5 years, Vikings only had one home Monday night game. And I don't know why they're doing that to us. It's very strange. And it's kind of, I'll kind of end on this note for the Nuggets about this game, is that it's kind of weird that as the schedule kind of trickles out, that the only identity of opponents we know are the teams that aren't necessarily divisional foes, but they're teams they flat out don't like. The rivalry with the Saints is long documented for, checks the calendar, the last 13 years, you know when it started. And then the Eagles, because of how disadvantageous their fans were, how rowdy, weird, and rude. I don't know if you listen to the Believe in Vikings show that I have with McKinney, the podcast, but Ron, my co-host there, always tells about how nasty it was when he went to Philadelphia, like, never go back type of stuff. So the only thing we know about this 2022 schedule early in the week is that it's 2 teams that you don't like, the Eagles and the Saints. It's too hard to say right now whether or not I expect the Vikings to win that game. I guess I'd say sure, why not? Because I have a pristine view of what O'Connell and the gang can do to make this team good. But you got to go through training camp, preseason, probably week 1 to figure out what they really look like, and then decide if they're good enough to beat the Eagles. Inevitably, because of my job title, I'll have to go through the schedule and figure out what the record will be. So I think I'll notch that one as a win. I got to see what the week 1 opponent is. If I have that as a loss, again, maybe if it's the Bills at week 1 at home, then I would certainly have them winning in Philadelphia. But yeah, I wouldn't be too spooked. The Eagles certainly got better. This will be a tell-all year for Jalen Hurts. I think the franchise will determine this year and this year alone whether or not he is their candidate of the future. Otherwise, they will draft another one and keep doing it till they get it right, probably of the mobile variety. But they had that sweet trade for A.J. Brown. They gave up an 18th overall pick for him to get a commodity that can do no wrong. A.J. Brown is about as consistent as they get. He's only been in the league for 3 years, but I was impressed with the Eagles transaction. And all of a sudden, they have a pretty damn good receiving core with Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. We'll see what Rager ever develops into. Greg Ward, and I think there's one other dude that I'm forgetting. But yeah, so I'm going to end it there, that this Eagles matchup isn't too daunting. The Vikings have beat them twice since losing an NFC championship, but it does continue the streak of NFL being anti-US Bank Stadium for Monday Night Football. And I don't know why. If you do, put it in the comments or email me at dustinbakernfl@gmail.com. That's all I got. I will be back Tuesday to bring you this Vikings dope, and we'll go from there. Skol, baby.